welcome to the Akri's October community meeting. Akri abides by the CNCF Code of Conduct. So what that basically narrows down to is treat people with respect. And if you don't feel like you're being treated with respect, you can let any of the Akri maintainers know, or there's a process for how you can communicate that. And that's linked in our developer meeting notes. And I guess I'll go ahead and put those in the chat here in case anyone does not have access to those meeting notes. Also, our community meetings are recorded. I think that record was automatically hit when you hopped in, but if you're not comfortable being recorded, feel free to turn your camera off, or you're welcome to also leave the meeting. These are recorded, so you could watch it back later if that's more comfortable. And on the agenda today, we just have one announcement, which is, so I'm going to talk about Akri in a session at KubeCon North America in about 3 weeks with some folks from Intel. And the session is going to focus on what is that device, what is that experience for accessing small devices from Kubernetes. So that's not just IoT devices of the Akri case, but also embedded devices such as GPUs, and making that access to devices more declarative. So Akri is one way of doing that. And then some folks from Intel have been working on the container device interface, which is not specific to Kubernetes, but rather to container definitions. And it's trying to make it easier to access devices and sets of devices. So they'll be talking a little bit about the KEP that they put into Kubernetes to enhance Kubernetes itself to work with this, which actually got approved and merged a month ago. So they're going to be working on the implementation of that. All that's to say, if you're interested in learning kind of about what's going on behind the scenes there, feel free to join the session or watch it back afterwards, or feel free to ping me also, and I can point you to some resources to read into on that or the KEP itself. So that's October 27th at KubeCon. I believe that's the only other announcement we have. This agenda is fluid, so feel free to, while we're discussing, add something to it, or leave a comment and I can add it. But first on the agenda, it looks like we have talking about Akri release items. Adi, do you want to kick us off with that?
Sure thing. So yeah, I've been working on clearing up a few of the release items that we had. The HackMD mentioned updating Rust, updating the test versions to Kubernetes and K8s. I think there are about like 3 PRs out right now. The main one I'm looking at right now is the test to update Kubernetes. There was a basically like a minor like label change for the control plane in Kubernetes 1.22 all the way across 1.25. One of the middle versions is just being a little finicky, so I'm working with that to see what's going on. But other than that, I think I was able to get every other version out of the way. Brian also left a comment mentioning maybe we could also update the other tests to match the same versions. So I'm working on that as well. But I want to try to time box this to like the end of the week, so that way we could have a full release of Akri out, and we can also just test things on our own.
Sounds good. Feel free to ping me or anyone else as reviewers when they're in a stable state, or feel free to put them in draft state and then undraft them whenever you're ready. Either way, but that'll get my eyes on it. I don't know about other folks, but yeah, working with the updating the end-to-end test is tedious. So I appreciate you looking at that. I know it's been in a bit of a process.
No problem. Yeah, I'll also reach out if I have any issues or if I see anything. There are a few things I had a couple of like questions on, but we can talk about that whenever on the Slack.
Cool, that sounds good. And so you're saying you want to kind of aim for a release by the end of the week? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, I think originally at the last meeting we were trying to get it done earlier, but I was still running into a few issues. I got over a couple of those hurdles, and I just want to get like the last few ones out of the way, and then maybe even do some testing before we officially say it's ready for release.
Okay, and then on that that note, are there any PRs that are up right now that we want to go in the release? So for example, we probably want that updating OPCUA one to go in. And there's a couple Helm PRs, which I don't have a cluster up right now. So, and I guess I could play with Helm without one, but so I haven't tested those. But I can try and do that this week if we want to get those in.
Yeah, I think if we could get those ones in, that'd be nice. I think the OPC one we first sure should do. That had like a Rust sec, I believe, on it. Or not a Rust sec, but like a dependency issue on it. The other Rust update and then the test update we should do. And if the Helm ones are ready and we can test them pretty quickly, we should go ahead and do that.
Okay. Would you be able to check the Helm ones out?
Sure, I can take a look. Yeah, I don't, yeah, do we need to spin up a new cluster for that, or?
No, you just need to have a cluster. So you can just do like a Helm install and make sure it properly forms a configuration and kind of that the end-to-end works. I guess the end-to-end tests on that one might cover that scenario for us. I really haven't looked into them much in detail to see whether our end-to-end tests would cover it. Yeah, I think, I guess regardless, we need eyes on this because, for example, one of them is modifying the Helm template only for a custom discovery handler. When that might be ideal for all, or but yeah, if it's a custom one, then the end-to-end tests certainly aren't covering that. So that would need a manual test. And then both of them are with regards to custom discovery handlers. So just
Okay.
need to spin up one of those.
If it doesn't seem pertinent to the release, then maybe we could do it after the release. I haven't taken a look at those either yet. I was mainly just focusing on like the other ones that I had open, but yeah, if it doesn't seem too critical, we can maybe wait then.
I think that depends on what pertinent means. Sounds, I don't know Kurok 2M, but it sounds like something that they're interested in. So it depends how important it is to them to have that work put into the next release. So I can just so that would be something that we would need to figure out from them. But it shouldn't be hard to test this. So it sounds like that's not going to happen though. So I think we can go ahead with the release regardless. If anyone has free time to quickly run through and test those and review those, that'd be great to get in. But it sounds like our priority right now is to just get a release out. So that sounds reasonable to me. And if anyone is taking notes, maybe we can link those two issues in to the notes to point people to if they're watching back at this to kind of see which ones we've been talking about. Is there anything else with regards to the release, Audie, that you wanted to point out?
I think that's about it. I'll keep everyone updated on Slack about that.
Awesome. Cool. And then up next on the release, I'm sorry, on the agenda, we have Leo. So Leo, do you want to tell us about some of the work you've been doing for integrating an external device inventory with Akri? And I can put in the notes here, both your kind of the proposal you put in and then also the PR.
Yeah, definitely. Let me prepare my sharing first. Oh, you disable participant screen sharing.
I think I should be able to add you there.
No, I cannot. No, I still cannot.
1 second, let me see. Yep. Are you able to?
Yeah,
cool.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let me know if you can see my screen now.
I can see it.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, guys, it's my first time to join the community call. I really like to, collaborate with you guys more in the future. So today, basically, what I want to demo is regarding Akri integration with external device inventory. Maybe before I jump into the demo, I still want to show you kind of like presentation I want to share within my team. I'm actually from the IoT development team. So previously I introduced the Akri idea to them as well, which basically I use something like this one to introduce to them. But before I jump into this one, I still want to let you guys understand why I initially had this idea that Akri actually need external device inventory. It's all becoming how to see it more coming into my mind. Because normally if you see in the IoT, this is a typical IoT solution. A very important one is a device management, right? Because IoT means project, you need to handle numerous devices. You cannot just net each devices do by themselves. You need to monitor their health status, do software update, and so on and so on. So basically, you need to have a place to register the device. But for currently Akri, what I have seen, that's my understanding. So you have many devices with different protocol. Akri agent, where detect a protocol by auto discovery, create instance, and controller is basically take effect on the instance creation or updating and create a broker pod. That's my understanding. But this something I feel is lack of is the a so-called device inventory, right? Which is actually very, very basic and very, very fundamental for IoT solution. And since I want to introduce Akri into the our IoT solution architecture, I have an idea that Akri agent is able to talk into something externally, which is basically like a device registration center or device inventory. This device inventory is the way how we talk in the IoT solution. So this is basically the idea. Akri agent still can discover, but before Akri agent create the Akri instance, Akri agent can talk to something externally, which someone, maybe an administrator or IoT solution provider, they can put in metadata of the devices, including the credential, And those information can be used together with to generate Akri instance. And then so Akri controller can create a broker pod with more information. This is especially critical for for Unwave. This one I'm going to put more detail later. So, okay, regarding to the demo, this is what I prepared for the demo. These steps are actually how I implement this feature, is not necessary. But for the demo, let me brief what I'm going to present first. The first thing is I prepare this view window because today we are all focused on how Akri agent take an additional step, talking to an external device inventory and get the information. So I'm going to open one window in Akri agent and run the agent locally. I'm going to run different discovery handler. This feature basically enhances the discovery handler configure file. So you can add an additional HTTP setting to allow agent talking to an external device inventory. So my demo is basically to run the agent and run initially the debug echo. So it will be very simple to show you how this is done. And I also prepared this one. What is this one? It's basically what I did is KG means Kubernetes get. I just create an alias for it. So I create a pod This part is to simulate a device inventory. You can think it's like a simplified version of IoT solution device registry, but the basic functionality is enough for this demo. It actually, you can think it's create a database with all of the devices. You can add more devices, like what will be the ID of the device, the information of the basic information of the device, which is basically Akri is going to discover during the different protocol discovery procedure. Right? Like for OPC, you will find the discovery URL. For Unwave, you will find the IP and MAC join. So with this information, I allow this device inventory admin or solution provider, they can add in more metadata. So as I previously mentioned, the external device inventory provide two principal functionality. First thing is for provisioning. So you can have the username, password, or even X509 private key and certification scene. So in the end, the agent can give these things to broker port to connect to the actual device, either PLC machine or the camera. Secondarily, the device inventory can provide the metadata. This is actually especially important in IoT solution, like for the manufacturing, right? When you connect a PLC machine, you do not just connect to it. You need to know where this PLC machine for, right? Maybe this is a chemistry. This PLC machine is to one of the procedure. You need to have a proper temperature, proper pressure. So all this information is the telemetry you need to connect. So all this information you should, as an IoT solution provider, provide to the broker pod so they can connect from the PLC machine. So this metadata, like hierarchy, telemetry information, you can also put into this one. So yeah, it's a very simple one. It's basically, I create this pod and I expose the HTTP server. I gave this one is a portal page. So it's easier for you to do the demo. You can add in new devices, change the metadata, and we can later see how this metadata is reflected in the Akri instance created. This is basically the environment, okay? And after this demo, I want to use more time to talk about Unwave. Because Unwave is much more complicated than the other protocol. Right now, our Unwave discovery is quite simple. It's just to discover the device service, but Unwave, if it is protected, there will be more steps like getting profile, getting different resolution of the video, getting the stream URL and so on. Those things, I believe in the future should be done by Akri instead of in the broker pod, because it's very common scenario in VMS system, video management system. So yeah, that's basically the idea. So let me start. Yeah, by the way, any time you have question, you can just interrupt me.
Just one quick question. So for the last part, getting the URL for the camera, you're saying currently that's not done in the discovery handler.
Yeah.
And so, in my understanding, that's only not done if a username and password is required, right?
If you're only using, if you're doing a protected Unwave devices, then stream URL. Yeah, you're right. If you don't, yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if it is not protected, then after you get a device services, like right now you did, you will be able to get the, how do you see? You can use a SOAP communication to get a stream URL without protection.
Right. So your proposal with this whole implementation is best effort in the discovery handler. If that falls short, the agent injects extra information into a broker, and the broker essentially says, okay, do I already know this? If I don't, can I go fetch it again myself? Why not have the discovery handler use the credentials instead of the broker? Is that kind of a you might as well not pass around the credentials too much, just pass it to the final broker instead of having the discovery handler do that.
I think it's better later when I demo the Unwave part, we can discuss. Actually, I prepare a few things to explain. Right now, we only use, we set the Unwave, we discover the device service, then we did system date and time. We find the Unwave service is ready on. Then what we did in the current implementation, we did a network interface. We find the IP and MAC address. So the thing is, we can, what I think we should enhance it is in the Akri agent directly. We can also do like get profile, get stream URL. So for very typical tasks, that is just, the broker port, in my understanding, it should be more for business logic, right? Instead of finding through a web service, find the RTSP URI, those can be done because it's very standardized procedure. We don't need to let the broker port to do it by themselves. Instead, we can actually do it for them, right? And then in the end, after we get the stream URI, when we get the PTZ control, the camera PTZ control services, we can give all those information to the broker port. So broker port can just focus on business logic. You want to fetch the image frame, you want to generate animation, you want to do AI video analysis. That is the task of broker port. But broker port doesn't need to do like implement all these Unwave library standardized step to
Right.
fetch the studio. That's my understanding how
So-
it should be.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm still missing something here of, when you say the agent's gonna do it instead, do you mean the discovery handler? You mean the OnVIF discovery handler? Is
Oh,
that-
no. I mean actually the agent, sorry, because right now the discovery handler and agent are separate. So in my understanding, it should be discovery handler, not the agent. Wait. Yeah, it might be directly in Unwave discovery handler instead of agent.
Because I would
But
think
we're
we
not.
don't want OnVIF specific work inside the agent, because we have this whole model. of
Yeah,
moving
exactly. I agree.
protocols.
Yeah.
Okay,
It should be inside the Unwave discovery handler. Sorry, I still don't differentiate these two. I thought them as the same, but yeah, you're right. I think the ideal case is it will be directly in the Unwave discovery handler.
okay, so then for the time being, I guess, so for your demo, you're not using these IP cameras, right? Because my other question is currently, we don't discover devices that require authentication, and so we don't create instances for them. So there would be no instance to update. And that's because certain endpoints, like you were pointing out, using OnVIF and SOAP requests, require authentication to get results, such as sometimes MAC address.
Yeah.
So we don't, we're not able to discover those, and so we would need the agent to share that to discover that.
Yeah, so for today's demo for the Unwave part, actually I install a Happy Time Unwave simulator. For this one, it actually allow you to turn on, basically it's a simulator, allow you turn on authentication and not authentication means a protector or unprotected. So I will initially make it unprotected as a simulator, and I will demo Akri can discover and then use the external device image. You can even inject data, metadata for the Unwave camera. That's the main purpose of today's demo. But I also want to cover a little bit after I turn this one to protector, what will happen, and just some plan I hope we can do in the Unwave discovery handler. It's definitely doable. I just want to use the Postman to show you how this could be done. And the information can use the same way inject into the Akri instance for use by the broker port. So that is my plan.
Cool. Sorry for so many preliminary questions. That's really interesting. Also, I'm curious about your OnVIF simulator because we don't have the best solution for mocking. So that might be a really helpful demo to create in the future. for
Yeah.
Akri.
Yeah, sure. So let me do with the basic one first. So the basic one is to demonstrate the functionality of I can fetch information. Sorry, I can fetch information from an external device inventory. So I start the Akri agent first, and if I have a look at my current, I don't have any current configuration yet. Let me start into debug Akri. Yeah, this one is for the debug echo starting locally. So basically, I start the agent locally. I start the debug echo locally, and now I'm going to create configuration. I have a few configuration here, which is basically generated from your Helm. This one. This one. Okay, if I give a look at this one. Everything is same exactly as a typical Helm template generator configuration. Only difference is this row. Yeah, I saw your comment. This one maybe in the future can be moved directly to the discovery handler. But since right now, my purpose is to, as quick as possible, implement this feature first. I don't want to change anything unnecessary, like change the Helm. So even this one maybe in the future be common for all of the protocol. Right now, I'm still putting into discovery detail because by putting here, I don't need to change the Helm part. So right, initially, what we have in the discovery detail for debug echo is only description. So it will be discovered 3 devices. And so I add one more here. Later, you will say the other test demo purpose configuration for the Envoy for OPC or for UDIF. You will also have this line. But right now I'm using it to point to a local pod. Yeah, of course, this one can be changed by solution provider in the future for real IoT solution provider. They may have, even in the Amazon Cloud can, right? We can just point to it. So this is the UI. And by the way, for now, I do not consider there may be some credential requirement, authentication requirement for this pod, because for the functionality purpose, I want this one to be as simple as possible. So right now, I think it's possibly the deployment state is I deploy the pod for this external device inventory into the same cluster, and I use the network policy to limit the communication only between agent and me. But anyway, it's just for the demo purpose. So now I have this one and my agent and my discovery handler already started. So if I go demo debug echo now. So yeah, the agent discover it, and the discovery handler discover it and tell agent. And the agent, since we do have this one, right? Since we do have this line, so actually the agent, after it receives the request, the device list from the discovery handler, it will add an additional step, that is to go to this URL and try to fetch the information. So here is one thing to note. For debug echo, the only thing right now for this external device, the fetching logic is if the protocol is debug echo and the ID is the same, then I will return the result. Of course, for different protocols, there may be different, right? Like for example, UDIF, you may need to know the exact name of the UDIF device and also the node name, which cluster node, which connected to this UDIF device. So all this information will be needed to query the exact metadata. That is basically the idea. So if we have a look at the, instance. Now we have a tree instance, right? Exactly the 404142. Since we do have a 40 and we have this information here, basically this metadata here, so we should be able to have some information in the Akri instance directly. Yeah, just as I mentioned, initially by previous Akri, I mean the current main release, you will only get this information. Basically, it's a description. That's what debug echo does. But now you have this information. Since we, okay, the purpose is this solution is going to be open for the solution provider. So different IoT solution provider, they may have different metadata they want to inject into the Akri instance. That's why I will not be able to know the exact JSON structure of the return information from the device inventory. So right now, my take or my implementation is just take everything returned from the server stream and put it under external info, EXT info key, and under the broker property. In the end, this information will be taken by the Akri controller and sent to broker port as the environment variable. That's my understanding. So when we get all this information to the broker port, the broker port will get this information like here. Okay, so this is how it is done. The feature basically allow fetching external information from the external inventory and get it done. And now I also implement, let's say if I delete it, or if I want to update the information, I delete this information. And since we do have a 10-second rediscovery for iteration, it will be discover something change. And if you check the YAML now, you will see the information gone because the entry is gone. And if you refresh this page, you will say, actually, I found it, right? So this thing also demonstrates the external device inventory can also use Akri as a way to find the new discovery devices. So the usage of this one is assume you are an IoT solution admin. You are going to discover this OT network. You may not initially know every PLC machine on with camera, but doesn't matter since all this information will be try to contact you, and you will be able to have a chance to know who tried to contact you at which time. So you will have a chance to add a new device record for this one. It's a very typical device provisioning procedure in the IoT solution. So let's see. Now I know there is a new device discovered by Akri, and I just create a new metadata for it. So yeah, I want to create a new entry for it. Let's change the metadata, something like Zoom meeting. Okay. We just change it and edit. So now we have a new one. And again, since we do have this 10-second discovery, and the agent will try to get the information again. And in the case you find the update of the external information, it will try to fetch it again and create the update. So you will be able to see this one. So this is basic functionality of this feature. It allow configuration to configure the external HTTP and then generate the and then inject the information. Fetch the information from external device inventory and inject it into the Akri instance. And you can think about the usage of this one. In the end, the broker, let's see, this is a PLC machine, and then the broker port can get the metadata, know which factory, which manufacturing line I'm in, maybe information like which telemetry I should fetch, what is the interval I should fetch, 30 minutes or 10 minutes. You will get a lot of information available here, which can be provided by the IoT solution provider based on their purpose for monitoring, for AI, or for other purposes. So this is expand the capability of Akri to give the flexibility for people to customize it, right? So Akri now can use for different purpose IoT solution. So this is the first part of my demo. And now I'm going to show the Armwave part. Before I go into the camera part, any questions so far?
I think all my questions are just about like the future you see, just around how you're mentioning how a lot of this is kind of POC and showing the power of all of this. And so I think my final questions would be like, how do you see this growing into something that people could use in production, and what would that look like? But I think we can save that because I'm curious to see like everything with OnVIF and all that you have lined up.
Okay. So let me continue first, and then we can leave some time in the end to answer the question. Because OnVIF will cover more production case. That is very often the edge devices. When I say edge devices, that is in IoT solutions, we call the PLC, camera, or the sensors. The edge devices, they may have the different protection mechanism. So especially for OPC, it's very common in the factory. They do have a so-called the private certification authority. It's basically a SSL certification publisher. It's like what we, like Microsoft or Google, get a certification for our website. It's the same in the factory. In a factory, OT environment is very normal that they don't want to connect to the internet. So they cannot connect to, sometimes they cannot connect to the publicly available certification publisher. Some of the big manufacturer, what they did is they set up X509 certificate publisher in their own OT network, and their PLC machines actually authorize people who can get their certificate signed by this OT network private certification publisher, and it can be done. So all this actually related to a topic. If Akri used in the environment, especially production environment, which many devices, edge devices, need the authentication, either username, password, or token, or certificate. Certification is definitely the best way, because it does have a timeline, can expire, and maybe you can every week you can roll the certificate. It's definitely the most common case. Before that, I will show the OnVIF case first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this debug echo, and I'm going to go into the OnVIF. I do not have an OnVIF. I do not have an OnVIF configuration yet, but I do have one here. I show you the content. It's basically the same as the template generated YAML file. The only difference is I do have this one now. So it actually contain this one. I don't know if you're interested to see this one is basically the same, but so if I do it, this one will be created, but right now we do not have controller running. Yeah, this one will do. Yeah, we just run this OnVIF discovery handler. Okay, by using this demo, it's not only to show the feature, because you already know the feature. It's roughly the same. You will, based on the IP and MAC address, join information and the protocol OnVIF, you will fetch the external device information, and in the end, inject the information into this one. But the important thing I want to let you know is I do not start on OnVIF simulator yet. Let me start it. It's actually, I use this OnVIF simulator. I will demonstrate a current defect in the current OnVIF discovery. Okay, let me just start it first. So basically this OnVIF camera will start on wave service, device service in this IP address, which is basically this virtual machine's IP address, and the port number 8000 for the on-wave service. And at the same time, it actually start RTSP server as well. So this RTSP server will start broadcast a video in this IP address and port number 2244, 22554 as well. And you will see actually our on-wave discovery handler already discover the camera, right? So if you look at, so the first thing I want to emphasize is actually here we only have one on-wave camera, only one. But let me open another. I only have one on-wave camera, but if you look at the if you look at the Akri instance, in the end we will have 4 different Akri instance. I think this is because one defect of current on-wave discovery handler. Let me explain why. Because right now, our procedure is first, yeah, maybe I just directly open it and then you see what happened, why we have 4 different Akri instance, even we only have one on-wave camera. If you look at, we discover this one, which choose an IP address not the same as this node. Actually, I want to see this VM have 2 net cards. So it does have 2 IP address, 2 MAC address, and even we only expose the same on-wave service URL, which is 10.0.0.5.8,000, we will discover 4 Akri instance because some defect in the currency. If I show you another one. If I show you the second one, you can see USA is just different IP address, same IP address, but different MAC address, and also the same URL. Actually, you can see from here even easier. You see the IP MAC address, it will be either this one or this one combined with the MAC address of the network card. But if you really do if you really look at the VM, I know typically on-wave camera, I mean, the real world, normally it does only have one MAC address, one IP address. So this defect doesn't infect most of the camera, but in our case, it actually is a defect because we do have a 2 IP address and 2 MAC address. And somehow I do not check the detail. Since right now, what we did is, as I previously mentioned, we did a discovery. After discovery, we get a system date and time. So it will check the date and time to make sure the on-wave is on. And then what we did is we check the network interface. This is also an on-wave service. If you look at it, our on-wave actually reported correctly. It report the it report the where is the IP address? Where's the see? That's strange. Yesterday I can say, basically the network interface is to find the MAC address and IP address of the camera. I believe something wrong here is we combine, because we have a 2 IP address and 2 MAC address, we somehow combine them to 4 different combinations and generate 4 instances. And I create a very simple on-wave discovery program by using Node. if you see what I did, I will also do discovery. And you can see my discovery is correct. I only find one device, which is here, and which does have all these scopes, and which have this URL. So I think one thing I suggest is we should not use IP address and MAC address for the filtering purpose. Instead, we should use the X address, which is basically the device service of the Unwave, together with the unique ID of the Unwave camera. In case like this, we don't know the camera is going to be installed in factory level 1 or factory level 2, doesn't matter. The IP address may change, so the X address may change, but the unique ID will not change. I understand initially our purpose is definitely IP may change, MAC address never change. So we use this one as the identifier, identity of the IP camera. But I suggest we can adopt the UUID and the X address as the identity of camera. So even in our case, we do have a 2 IP address, basically 2 Ethernet network card in the VM simulated Unwave camera. We will only get 1 Unwave camera, and we will discover correctly and generate 1 Akri instance. So this is the first suggestion I have for this case. And of course, if you go to the like for example, this one, you will see we inject correctly. Oh, it's not. Oh yeah, we inject correctly the external info. Basically, the feature is still the same as the debug echo. The difference is the no different actually. All of the information you fetch is just put into the broker property. The feature itself is still working well on Wave. So what I did is the if you change the information here, it will be recreated. That is the case. So the last thing I want to demonstrate is about the case for Wave protector. So because it keep on discovery, so I generate a log all the time. Stop. So what I'm going to do is I need to remove this file. And I need to make it authenticatable. So this simulator basically allow you create the authentication, and it allows you to generate username and password. And for this simulator, it also allows you to generate multiple profiles. So it is possible, like for one Unwave camera, you provide the 1 to 80 multiplied by 720 quality video. And at the same time, 640 multiplied by 480 video at the same time. But all this information, like get the profile of the video, get the stream URI of the video, is actually the responsibility of Discovery Handler, I believe, in the future. So we should have a way to invoke more Unwave services to fetch the information. So now I'm going to save it. And I'm going to start it again. Now I start this one. So if I do, so I started now. But if you look at it now, it actually won't be able to discover by our Akri right now because we do not support the authentication. I'm going to show you the, now you can see this one. This one is actually because our Akri Discovery Handler is still trying to fetch the information. And because right now, we do invoke this network interface to fetch the IP and MAC address. Sadly, this service of Unwave need authentication. So you are able to see my on-web camera gives this notification, someone trying to access me but without certification. So this is basically what happened. And I'm going to show you actually how this could be done to fetch the stream URL by using this one, Postman. So still the same. The first step is still the same. You use the discovery WSDL broadcast, find the device service URL. Then you can get a system date and time to make sure the on-wave is on. This one doesn't need any authentication. On-wave will allow it. So you will get it. Like the date and time, you know, okay, this device service is on. Then you don't need to do network interface, right? Because I believe we should change to UUID and the device service URL. You will need to get the like capability first, if you want. So at least you know this on-web camera support like the PTZ as well. This kind of capability you will know it. And for get profile, like how many different resolutions this on-web camera has, or get stream URL, you will not be able to directly soak and get it. So I'm going to explain how it can be done in a software. Basically, if you send it now, you will receive 401 not authorized because the on-web camera see you don't have an authentication. And what on-web camera give you as well in the header, it contains this one in the response, www minus authenticate. And it will basically give you three very important information. First thing is digest realm, second thing QOP, third thing logs. Okay, with these three information, you will be able to programmatically generate a hash code. And you can embed the hash code inside your next URL header and then send to the on-web camera. After that, you will be able to get the stream URI. So I also create a very small program to show you. Still have this one here. If I'm going to show you the on-web test. I create another one fine stream here, and in this one, I embed in the username password, and I actually use a library. But the library is very simple. It's just you can see the library and see how the hash code, as I previously mentioned, use this tree information to generate a hash code. And in the end, this program will generate a stream URL. So if I run it now, I can find it. So it is possible to use a software to fetch even a protected on-web camera RTSP stream. And if the RTSP is also protected by itself, right? Like on-web has its username password. RTSP can have its own username password as well. You can also, in the on-web camera, it should embed that information into it. If we go to IP, actually I have it already. If you go to this one, going down, on-web camera, on-web protocol is the one responsible for broadcast the actual stream URL. So if the RTSP stream is also protected, then you can have a username password put into the URI. So in the end, our discovery handler can authenticate into the on-web and fetch the stream URI, and the stream URI should be good enough. Even the RTSP is protected by the camera, still we can send the whole RTSP with username password to the broker pool, and broker pool can do the business logic part, which is really handle the video. So yeah, so this is what I am thinking we can enhance the on-web discovery handler. So if in back to the feature, if we're able to, in the on-web protector case, if we do have this admin here in the external information, after we first discover the device, the device service, we can use the username password to trigger a first URL. After the first URL, we will get a 401 because we are rejected by the Unwave server. But the Unwave server will also tell you the digit realm, QOP, and long. We can use it to assemble a hash code and try to fetch the stream URI again. And in the end, we do not only get this one, we can also get a profile. So we will know there are different resolution for the video. All this information we can bundle together and put into the information into Akri instance. So the broker pod can choose which resolution, which stream URI to use. So yeah, that is almost the end of my demo. Yeah, exactly on time. Any questions so far?
Well, I mean, I think we have a lot of discussion that could be had, and unfortunately we're at the hour, but just to clarify there at the end, you were saying we could try again. You're saying try again with the user and password that we got from the device inventory, right?
Yeah, because this information, when you see the launch is actually a random generated launch by the Unwave server. Actually, even in this demo, if I restart the server, it will give different launch every time. So it's basically a protection. You will never send the username password to the Unwave server directly because the Unwave server will give you a launch randomly first. You need to, based on the launch and your username password, generate hash code and send it to the Unwave. So even someone know the hash code you send, they will never be able to access the Unwave because every time the Unwave server launch will be different.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood that that was still, you're saying still with authentication.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot to discuss here. So, but I think the demo was very cool and very helpful to point out the suggestion for identifying cameras differently, and that would be great to put up an issue on that, and maybe even put in the implementation. You clearly have a great deep sense of OnViv, so that's really exciting. And I liked seeing everything with Postman. It was very easy to consume. This was a great demo.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Actually, that's what I can show.
Do other folks have questions, comments? We are over time, but I was curious, Leo, maybe for a couple more minutes if you have them. What are your thoughts on the next steps for this? So you mentioned how this is good work to kind of show the power of having a device inventory, and how you really wanted to get things kind of going as quick as possible. Where do you think the delta is between like being able to show the power of this and being able to like bring it into Akri core? And like, what is your timeline on that? Because I think we'd want to address several issues before, and this is just my perspective, but before we'd want to add this in, for example, like updating instances without bringing down brokers, having passwords just being displayed in environment variables in the open, things like that that require a fair bit of design and discussion. So I was just curious what your thoughts are on that.
So I must say initially I have this feature is really from also my current working content, right? I do have one customer which is the manufacturer customer. It's a chemical factory. They do have many different PLC machines and equipment. And right now, their issue is they do have many different applications in different, it's like a different region of their factory level, right? For different producing procedure. And they do want to put all these things into a more automatic way, right? They can discover the PLC machine. Even they can have an application one for working step one, application two for working step two. They can also, sorry, they can also manage it in the same way. So I think the first thing I think is a Kubernetes cluster. Definitely that is the way they should go, right? They use different program language like MATLAB, Python, even very old programming language. So make it container managed by cluster is definitely the good way. And Akri can really add a convenience for them. They can discover the different PLC. They can introduce a device inventory in the cluster to manage all of the different machines in different region of their factory. They can basically do a lot of things, right? Especially with the Akri capability, we generate a broker pod. It's really open a gate for them to dynamically allocate resource and application for different machines. That's why I initially have this idea. So what I think the first thing is I hope we can have this feature, and I really want to discuss with this customer, use them as maybe a MVP test run in their factory with Akri and I will help them to create some maybe prototype device inventory. And I read your comment, Kid. I really appreciate. I think it's definitely correct that username password sending by HTTP is not the first thing. It's not the safest thing. I'm just use this one as a very quick one because it's most simple to implement at the first stage. And also for unweight is very critical for unweight protector. And then secondarily, I think we can still, even in the current implementation, we can enhance the security like what I draw here. We possibly, yeah, Microsoft, we can have the Azure Arc. And since we do have we do have a key vault extension, maybe we can embed into device inventory pod with the key vault, so we can still have a very safe way to protect it, and we allow this device inventory pod to safely talk into our agent to at least enhance the security to a certain extent. So that is something in my mind I want to do for this customer, and I hope this feature, the basic form, can be recognized by the community and also cooking.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to have a production scenario. I'd be really excited to see that happen. And I get what you're saying, using like Key Vault would be great. And instead of returning the username and password, the result could instead give the name of the key that specific broker would need to I get access to, and then maybe that would be mounted into the pod separately as well. So I think there is a way to do it securely, and it would be very cool to have something working on a factory floor with Akri. So I think we should continue the conversation, whether that's on Slack or in the PRs itself. And then if we feel like this needs another community meeting before the next one in a month, feel free to propose that in the Slack so we could discuss more as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can prepare more deep dive agenda for the plan, focus on the plan we can do.
Great. So it sounds like kind of next steps around this are continue discussing. So we should definitely share out this recording. I think people will find it exciting. Keep discussing in the PRs. And then Leo, are you in Akri Slack?
I don't have the Slack channel yet, but I do have Slack. I can join into the Slack chat channel.
I think that would be a great way to chat and kind of share out your thoughts. That access to the Slack channel is you can get from the Akri docs. It should lead you there. So if you just go to docs.akri.sh, it'll link you to the Slack, I believe. And I think our meeting notes, the Slack might even be at the top. Maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, I should be able to find it, I guess.
So
I
it's-
can join into the channel and discuss.
great. Well, this was an awesome demo. Thank you so much for sharing it. Does anyone else have any final comments before we close up the meeting? I think we're not gonna have time for issue triage today.
By the way, Kate, regarding the comment regarding why I currently after the device information update, I removed the Akri instance is actually I don't know there's a way to update the Akri instance. And also the second thought is even with update the Akri instance, in the end, the Akri controller still will disassemble the previous pod, broken pod, and then create another one. Right? In the end, is basically the same. The pod will be.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the problem, is we would need a more full-fledged solution that would have the controller do something like dynamically inject environment variables into brokers via something like a config map rather, because there's no way to dynamically inject new environment variables into a running pod from my understanding. So that's what I was saying, if we would need deeper thought there on how we could get this information updatedly dynamically added to these brokers, and a config map, for example, could be one way.
But just in the previous case I mentioned, in this factory, like in this typical IoT solution domain, I will say it's perfectly fine. I mean, you just let the previous pod gone and then create a new one and run the application again. It is perfectly fine. I don't see any issue
Okay.
from the IoT perspective. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's great to hear. You're the expert on the floor and like working with partners. So if you think that is perfectly fine.
It's okay. It's fine. It's actually
Cool.
even in the actual scenario in the IoT solution, we do have the like maybe you know the Microsoft will have an IoT edge. It's basically still also a Docker container environment, and it is possible like the container application container for some reason network change or internet interrupt, it will be going down for a while and resume by itself, and by recreating, it is acceptable. I mean, in IoT, it's a quite typical case.
Okay, great to note there. Wonderful. Well, I think we unfortunately have to close the meeting, but thank you again, Leo, and it was great to see everyone.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.